the first step of training your dog to find morel mushrooms is imprinting the scent. But before we get started on actually imprinting the scent with Bo, what I want to show you is something that we do. So for us, pretty much the morel season is over. When we're out picking morels, we put morels in paper sacks like this. We put a date on these so we would know for video purposes. These was picked 5/15 up in Michigan. We put them in paper sacks and we store them, roll them up tight, store them in the refrigerator. And the reason we do that is because it starts the drying out process. Remember, today is the 6th of May. These was picked on the 15th, so a few days ago. And if you look at them, they're starting to dry out, and that's what happens if you leave them in the fridge in a paper bag. Plastic bags, they end up souring, molding, stuff like that. We do once in a while get some mold on some of these, but it's a rare occasion. For the most part, if I left these in the fridge, they'll dry out. The reason we've kept them in the fridge is for video purposes, and also if I keep them in there, I got a piece in here I cut off, but I can take this has still got some moisture to it. So it's just the morel that we found in the woods in Michigan. But these are going to dry out. We're going to speed up this process. What I do here is I'm more prepared and I have a knife with me. So hold on, let me go grab my knife. Got my knife. I take these when I'm cutting these up to use for training. I'm planning on training. I'm going to dry these out in the dehydrator. What we're going to do, a lot of times I cut them in just in half like this, just like you would when you're cutting them or cooking them. And that's what I did with this last batch. It's on the dehydrator now. But what I think I'm going to start doing because of that is I think I'm going to start cutting them up small, getting them prepared. So when they come out of the dehydrator, all I have to do is rehydrate them and put them in a tin. And if you look with that one morel, I get several pieces out of it to train with. And I would consider this a training for a day, because what I do is I would rehydrate it, put it in my tin, train in the morning, put the tin in the refrigerator, and then in the evening training, bring it back out, back in the tin, do it, and then I throw it away. And you could probably keep it longer, but I worry about it souring. I don't want that dog to start sniffing that soured mushroom. So I just pitch them after a day's use. You can do however you see fit. Before I get Bo out, I want to talk about something because you're going to see it in the training. So we have dogs, taking them out for a walk. They don't know how to walk well on a leash, so they're pulling, they're choking themselves. But they continue to pull forward because they want to get up ahead, whatever it is, whether they want to go smell that bush or they seen a rabbit, whatever the reason they're pulling and we're following. We want to do that. We want to create an obsession with these morels, and kind of how I do it is I let them pull me to the box. And when they get to the box, I release all pressure. And then we just continue that. So and you'll see over time as we're training these dogs, a real obsession for that morel in that box, and then we'll transfer that eventually to the real thing in the woods. But let's get into actually training Bo. All right, so now I'm not asking anything of him. I'm just letting him pull me to the box. He gets to the box, puts his nose in the box. Now, the first time I did this, I'd be a little more prepared and I'd throw, but he's done this a few times. So when he put his nose in, he stuck his nose on the tin, and then I paid him. And that's the idea of imprinting this scent as we're moving forward. He sticks his nose on the morels, taking in that scent, just like now, and then I pay. That takes a few days to get to that. You just have to slowly do it. The first time I did the box with him, I put the tin in there, I put food in there, he went in, and as he started consuming, just like now, all the food, before he didn't have to stick his nose on the tin, whenever he got done, or almost done, had a couple pieces of kibble left, I would drop more kibble in. And I just slowly start doing a little less and asking for a little more, I guess I should put it, a little more and a little more for him, until he would put his nose over top of the tin, and then I would drop in, and now eventually that's kind of where we're at now. Eventually, we're going to start asking for more duration. And then I want him to fight to stay in that box. And I'll show you what I mean here in a minute about that. There's. So we'll start getting a little, over the next week or so, we'll get more duration. But what I'm going to show you is when we're fighting to get into that box. If he comes out of the box, I don't do anything, I don't say anything. But I want to be able to pull a pressure there and then feed. So I'm trying to pull him out and then I feed. And then I'll add, with everything else, you just keep adding a little more, until he is just fighting and scrambling to keep on that Morel mushroom scent. We want, like I said, we want to create an obsession with this. And this is how we do it. Like I said, if he comes out, I don't worry about it. But I'm not going to let him wander around. There we go. He's on leash, so he is only allowed to go in this area. If he tries to go further, it stops him. Now, if he didn't come back to the box, if he just refused, I would basically end the session and we would try again later. But do know, until I have him indicating really well on this Morel, like very solid, we will continue to box feed. This is the first step. We want to get this good, and then we'll move on. So whether it takes a week or 2 weeks or a few days, that's depending on the dog. As you can see, I'm using this kibble. It's just small handfuls at a time. And the reason it's small handfuls is not just a piece at a time, is because it's just such small kibble. And the size of the handful, in reality, for me, just depends on how much time I have. If I have more time, I can get in more reps. I'll use less dog food. But, a little bit smaller handfuls. But if I'm, I got to get to work, I would pull out huge handfuls and we would do it in 4 or 5 sessions. So anyways, this is the box feeding. This is imprinting that scent, getting him to love that scent. It's actually the first step that I do when I'm getting my dogs. As far as the box, I use the box for many different purposes just because I think it helps with a lot of different things on down the road in training, but also you can use something else. You could technically use a dog food bowl. You can get them big plastic ones. I have one someplace. I don't use it. I use it first for a touchpad for them to put the feet on. But it's a blue. It's about yay deep, about that big around. I could use that to imprint the scent, technically. I like the box, and I highly recommend using the box. Want his nose right on it. There it is. All right, so we're gonna continue with this training. If you have any questions, remember this is the very first step of getting your dog to love that smell. If you have any questions, let me know. The link is down below for the course, and it goes in detail how we do the box feeding, step by step, of all the whole process of how I get my dogs to find Morel mushrooms.